Hi, good morning, everybody. So welcome to TWR Facebook Live. So very happy to be here this morning, and very happy to have a special guest, David Presti. Welcome.
Thank you, Rinpoche. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here.
Thank you. This is the second time here, right? So
It is.
We've been here before. So today the conversation is about the continuation of the four lamps that. So I've been doing something called pit instructions of the dzogchen, and particularly Shangyu Ninju, and among that 21 nails, 11th nail, among that there's a four lamps there. So the idea of lamp, and we did a four Facebook live teaching. So today's this conclusion, I have invited David to discuss this from the neuroscience point of view. So so I'm very much looking forward to having conversation, learning more about it. So just people who are first time watching this here, is the four lamp is the lamp number one is the physical eye, clearing the darkness of the worldly darkness. Lamp number two is a clear vision of sound, light, and rays. Removes the view of nihilism. And number three is the wisdom awareness, clear the darkness of ignorance. Number four, the last one was the empty nature of the base, remove the darkness of bias. So these four lamps, which is very, very important part of the dzogchen teaching. So basically all of them are really very much talking about the light, the lamp, the awareness. This all are, and it is very much the discussion about the awareness, and that awareness having the power to clear the darkness. So when the awareness shines through the eye, it clears the darkness of the worldly darkness. And when awareness is internally, when awareness arises, it clears the inner darkness. So they all have something to do deeply with the awareness. So awareness is like the same as like a light. So out in the outer world, light, the inner world is awareness. So awareness does everything, right? So that's the really conversation. So what do you think about this notion of sense of awareness that really kind of illuminating outer, inner darkness,
Mm-hmm. I think it makes eminent sense in the context of everything we know or think we know about the brain and the mind in contemporary neuroscience. I mean, first of all, as I'm sure you know and many people are aware, our capacity to explain in any kind of detailed way what awareness is and where it comes from, what consciousness is still a deep mystery in modern neuroscience. Maybe the mystery, the big mystery is, given all that we know about the body, the brain, cells, molecules, energies, physics, chemistry, how can we, from that, say something about what awareness is? And we can't. And that's the big challenge right now, is to see what will get us to the next step. However, as a process which we experientially are familiar with, awareness and consciousness, we can start to investigate and say a lot. And so when we look into the world with our eye, we see the light, we see a landscape which is illuminated by the light, and when we bring our awareness to that, it becomes perhaps more magnified, more readily available to us. We see more detail. And we can also bring our awareness, whatever that is, some kind of amplification of sensation to our inner processes, our breathing, some thought, and so forth. So
Sure.
there's every reason to believe we can study these things,
Sure.
with the tools.
So
of
in some
science.
sense, like according to this ancient teaching, I think in some sense awareness is referring to self. So like according to the teaching is saying the self-awareness is the way that any sentient being, any human being able to realize yourself is to have the self-awareness. So in some sense of, it's not like a perception of self, but the awakening of self. But on the other hand, then there is this conventional sense of self that also we can think about only really two kinds. One is more the higher awareness, the knowing oneself. One is conventional perception of self, what we were talking about, how you see yourself is what you project out in the world. Mm-hmm. So basically you just, in a way, every time the appearances are mirroring you, you're seeing what you have projected out there from the projection mind of view. But the higher awareness, that which is beyond that perception or beyond that limitation, so that awareness in the Four Lamp is talking about there is a way to access that higher sense of self, right? I mean, I don't know if there's anything from the neuroscience point of view that the conventional sense of self, interdependent, that probably easy to understand, right? But the higher sense of self, maybe it's difficult, right?
Yeah, well, I would say it's difficult. I mean, this may be an inaccurate way of reflecting on or interpreting what you're saying. Is it possible to think of higher awareness as the same kind of awareness as more conventional awareness, but you're able to remove the sort of delusional aspects of that, this sort of the stuff that because our awareness of anything is so influenced by the beliefs we have and by the stuff we bring to it, and we think we're just kind of neutrally observing things, but there's lots of research that shows that that's not the case, that how we conceive of something dramatically can affect our perception. So I'm wondering whether when you talk about higher awareness, it's possible to think of that as ordinary awareness, so to speak, but with all of that encrusted baggage that we bring to awareness all the time removed.
So I think maybe in a way it's kind of, first of all, I wanted to just say that, like David and we, I feel like it's very, very complicated topic, in a way, trying to talk about it. We have met a couple of times ourselves in a breakfast, and we're trying to talk between each other and say, okay, share with each other, learn from each other, and to see what we can bring out to all the Cyber Sangha, all of do here. But then we just, even this morning we said, we don't know what we're trying to bring here. We'll just we'll just sit and talk whatever it comes. Hopefully it's something meaningful, helpful. If not, at least we're having a good time, right?
Yeah. Thank you for your patience. Because I think it's really, the scientific worldview is very powerful, and it really carries a lot of weight in our modern world, and has been very successful at producing many things, including all the technology that we're using right now to communicate, so widely. So we can't argue with the successes of all of that.
Sure.
And it is still very limited in its capacity to address things that are related to the nature of mind and consciousness. And my own personal feeling as a scientist is that this is where we're hitting the wall right now, and the frontiers of science is with the methodologies that have been developed for 500 years to try to understand the world have been enormously successful at some level in understanding some aspects of the world. But when we attempt to apply that same set of criteria to understanding who we are and our awareness from which all this has sprung, we're going to hit some limitations that need to be expanded.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so some sense of, like we were talking this morning, like in some sense, interdependency, and also, so we're talking about like a sense of awareness, the higher awareness or ordinary awareness, but awareness beyond conditions and personality. That's clearly, according to these ancient teaching, discuss and talks and trying to introduce. But at the same time, we have our logical mind, conventional mind, thinking process, but these also are very important. So maybe in some sense what we're trying to really learn is that some, we're talking about everything has something to do with interrelationship, like but sometimes into like modern society is like very much materialistic focus outside, and the inner value of inner world is not valued very much. We were talking, when we were growing up in Asian traditions, for example, children are taught to say uncle, auntie, your brother, your sister. Somehow we don't call by their just names. There's always a relationship base, and we call like a brother, or some sense of like a sister, even not brother sister, but that's referring. Mm-hmm. So some sense of that valuing, trusting the interrelationship, how we create a relationship among us, has a great value in our society, well-being. That I think that's a value there, because sometimes in the Western world seems like a little bit kind of lost those. Lost real relationship with your own families, also lost real kind of relationship with your community and some sense of neighbors, mm-hmm. and children and parents. So, but why? Reason why sometimes we lost all this connection is also because somehow, I don't know why we've lost.
Yeah, well, there's every reason to believe that one of the most important aspects of humanity and of who we are as humans is our capacity to connect, be compassionate, to assist and help one another, to work as communities. And it's often said that, so the human brain is very complex and developed over several million years, we believe, of evolutionary processes. And our own current species of Homo sapiens has been around for a couple of 100,000 years, but it's only been in the last 10,000 years that we've developed agriculture and cities and city-states and technology and all of this stuff. So it's often said that, well, what were humans doing for all the rest of that time? They weren't making any progress. They weren't. It was only modern humans that have been able to make progress. And I think that's totally missing what was happening during all of that time, which was learning how to collaborate, as communities and help one another, and that our complex brain has in large part involved to allow us to be social beings, mm-hmm. and to be compassionate and to assist.
Sure. And
that's been kind of lost a bit in our modern culture, which has emphasized a kind of competitive domination of the environment and of other people and so forth. And so anything that we can do to help reconnect with our heritage, mm-hmm. is useful.
So let's go back to this topic about the lamps a little bit. And one of the teaching in Shangjin, not in the four lamp, but sometimes there were discussions about the we say Citta Shai Doma, like the heart, lamp of the heart. Mm-hmm. So idea of lamp of the heart will be the heart is not just a pumping machine, but in the heart there is a space. In that space there is light. That light, there is an energy. When the heart opens, it sends through these two channels to the eye, and that these channels get filled with that energy and light, and through the eye, and it shines out. That the same energy, what is in the heart, in the world, then what you really see outside in the world is you see your own, the light of your heart. You're perceiving these lights back to yourself. So basically, when the things are completely open, what you're really seeing is you're seeing your true sense of self in the every experiences you're having. Or when you are closed that, and then these signals are shut down, energy is kind of shut down. There's no flow through your body into your brain, into your eye, and then what you really see, even you don't see that light. So that notion is there, right? So that light, heart, brain. So anything from the neuroscience?
Well, I like the whole exploration as the heart being more than just a pump, and of course in many of the traditions from around the planet, especially from Asia, the heart has a very important role in emotionality, and it's a real center of the whole energetics of the subtle body and all of this. And so excuse me while I have a little elixir of life here. Excuse me. In the Western biomedical tradition, we have deconstructed the body into a lot of different functional systems, and one of those functional systems is the nervous system, and there's the brain and all of the neural connections that communicate throughout the entire body. There's the endocrine system, there's the digestive system, there's the immune system, there's the cardiovascular system, and the cardiovascular system is the pumping of the blood, and the heart is the pump, and there are the blood vessels that go all over. And there's somewhat of an independence between the way we think about all these other systems, and we've developed specialties in medicine and in research to study them. And we know that that's, at some level, we know that's not the way it is. The body evolved as an organism. Everything is highly interconnected. It may be convenient to separate things off, but really there's more connection than not. And in other medical traditions like Tibetan medicine or Chinese medicine or Indian medicine, everything is much more interconnected, and there's not such an isolation of function. So the idea that the heart may be involved in some way that we don't understand in our cellular, molecular, Western biomedical science, that it may be involved in communication both within the body and between bodies, I think is a really neat hypothesis to explore. And that often when scientists hear stories of chakras and channels and things like that, they see them as just, fabricated images that may be useful for meditation or something like that, but they're not real in any sense. Sure. And that may be missing a whole universe of knowledge that we're just not going to capture if we stay limited to one particular slice of looking at things.
Sure.
So I don't have a lot to say right now about how it might be involved, but I'm excited that maybe there would be more interest in actually studying these things as we get more communication between different traditions that have different worldviews, really, and different ways of conceptualizing the body.
So, again, you're saying, like Western medicine, whole in hospitals, there's a whole cardio department and neuro department, all different departments, different. So, but from your point of view, generally as a neuroscience scientist, but what is the relationship, the brains to the heart? If there's any, of course there's something there. So what is,
sure,
how much is there, and what are the important ones?
Well, what we know is there for sure is that there's a lot of neural connectivity between the brain and the heart, and between the brain and the entire interior of the body in here. So there's this, just to reduce it to one simple set of neural connections, relatively speaking, there's a nerve called the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve comes out of the stem of the brain. There's two, one on each side, and it comes down through the neck, and it goes into this area here, and then it many branches. Many branches go to the heart, many branches go to the lungs, branches go down into the abdomen, into the digestive system area. So it's highly interconnecting everything in there, sending messages from the brain, and very importantly, all of this area here is also sending signals back into the brain. So there's communication in both ways, which is extremely vigorous.
Who's in charge?
Good question. Good question. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is not at all accurate to say the brain is in charge and it's regulating the heart. It's going both ways.
So in some sense, of course, according to this ancient tradition, so it's not the brain is in charge, it's not the heart is in charge, it's something beyond. Maybe the awareness is in charge, right? So awareness is kind of more, brain and heart is like a place in which it's trying to, that energy is kind of locating for temporary location and communicating to serve particular purposes. You know, like, so some sense is probably it's not none, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And when you say awareness is in charge, then that immediately takes us into territory that that neuroscience really has nothing to say yet, because we don't know how to bring awareness as an agency into the picture. And that is the big challenge, and the challenge that I believe will only be met adequately if we expand the way that we're actually asking the questions, and from that we can get, I think, a lot of information from traditions.
So in sense of like a neuroplasticity, like there's this idea of like a brain even physically expanding, able to expand. And so somehow, clearly there's something beyond the brain itself, ability to expand itself, change it. That is, so in some sense, what is that? Then that has to come down to awareness, no?
I don't know. What do you mean by something beyond the brain is necessary?
So no, like for example, like idea of that brain able to change its structure, and so its ability to change, it has something to do with the mind and consciousness, awareness. Basically saying like if meditating 20 minutes for a couple of weeks, changing it. So the mind is able to, in a way, changing the structure of brain, right? Do you agree or not?
Well, that is one way to think of it, but that's not the way that the mainstream interpretation in neuroscience would think of it. It would be thought of as the following. Anytime we engage in practicing any kind of behavior, we are reinforcing, changing, growing whatever the brain processes are that are related to that behavior. So if you practice shooting a basketball every day for a year, you will grow through neuroplasticity, the connections in the brain and in the muscles and everything that are involved with that. And so if you sit and practice focusing on your breath for 20 minutes a day for 2 months every day, you will grow the connections that are needed to mediate that process. So the conventional explanation doesn't bring in mind or awareness in some way, only in the sense that whatever awareness is, it is a physical process that is amplifying attention.
So what about like the intent, like, okay, the basketball, that's the physical aspect of movement, then the mind collaborating with it, but something, even the basketball, the intent to do that, intent to, or trying to bring your sense of idea of warmth and kindness, bringing into the heart, positive emotions affecting brain, the emotion affecting brain. That emotion is a consciousness, right? An aspect of consciousness.
Well, it has an awareness. It has a aspect of consciousness to it. But again, I'm not defending this. I'm only saying that the conventional way of understanding these things in neuroscience, because most neuroscience would not have any problem with anything like this, but they wouldn't say that you need some additional thing beyond the physical processes in the brain. They would say whatever the emotion is, it's a bunch of neurons like signaling this way and that way, and a bunch of brain oscillations and processes, and then all of that works together to change to mediate these neuroplastic effects. That you need some kind of additional thing is not yet embraced in any way. Now, I'm not sure this is the best example to them, but I think that there will be ways in which that attempt to explain everything through the known physical processes of the brain will run into problems, and then we will need to expand, and that will be relevant.
So the idea of like I know all the yogis, and when some people die, that the clinically death, but then they're saying the heart is warm in meditation. What do you think about that?
I think that's really interesting, and I'm glad that there are people that are trying to look into this more and see if it can be studied in some way. This process took them, the death process of lamas, where they apparently are able to maintain some aliveness of the heart center. The body doesn't deteriorate, and it lasts for many weeks, and so I think this is really, and it does suggest that maybe there's something going on here that we can't explain with ordinary science. And folks that have so far looked into this, many of them have claimed, we can understand it in this way and that way. But of course, it's hard to study. If there is some subtle process that's happening that is maintaining some sense of aliveness, our attempt to study that with a bunch of instruments or something, that might mess everything up, I would think. Maybe the consciousness just go, okay, bye.
So what about like this, in the sense of, of course, there's all this relationship, interdependency relationship between the brain and the heart. I think from medical point of view, from a traditional spiritual point of view, the chakras need to be connected, they're open in the central channel. But are there any sense of, from neuroscience, there's any independent, separate existence, like the idea of brain, heart come to exist before the brain? The life force of the heart is before brain come to exist, it's there, right?
Yeah.
So there's some sense of, any sense of, they have total separate, before they collaborate together or after they collaborate together, they are separate existence. One can survive without the other one. I heard some that technology, they are hooking up brain with a computer, in a computer or something like that.
Yeah, well, in bits and pieces, yeah. Okay. Well, let me back up a little bit. So in development, I think the way that we will ultimately best understand the development of the body, the cells as they grow to be the body, is that everything is deeply interconnected from the beginning. So you may be able to point to something which is beating as a little heart in the fetus before you can point to something that looks like a brain. But the reality is that there's a sophisticated neural system that's already there, and so the heart, so I think it's just all deeply interconnected. When it comes to, what was the other thing you asked then? The second thing?
I think probably that's what is it. It's that people saying that brain beats, the heart beats before the brain. So maybe what you're saying, neurons might be still connected. Hard to say these things.
Yeah, right? It's all interconnected. But the other thing about brain computer, that's certainly happening. But it's not like you're taking the brain out and hooking it up to a computer. You are able to decode various neural processes in the brain by measuring them electrically, what's happening, and then use that to interact with robotic systems and so forth. So, for example, if you have an injury that has paralyzed your body, and you want to be able to move your arm, but your arm doesn't move anymore. You can actually think, the intention, I would like to move my arm even though it doesn't move. The signals can be recorded from the part of your brain that is generating the signals that would go out to the muscles, but the muscles don't work anymore or the connection is broken. So you can then pick up those signals electrically and you can hook them up to a robot and have that robot arm then move. And this is a very exciting area of bioengineering that folks are developing systems like that. That doesn't mean that we understand all that's involved in, sort of the brain intention and so forth connection, but it means that we're making a lot of progress in just being able to decode things that we can measure in the brain. Mm-hmm. So very exciting and also very helpful for people who suffer from various sorts of disabilities which prevent them from moving. Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to maybe mention to all our audience here that, as you can see, these topics are very spirituality and science, where they kind of really contribute to each other, understanding better, more fuller. And a lot of researches are happening, a lot of findings are happening, a lot of discussions are happening. This is also here, since I'm talking about the teachings, so I thought always, personally, I'm very interested to just trying to understand a little bit more, and so having this kind of conversation. There's a lot of questions sometimes, even sometimes we don't know what question to ask, But clearly there is this topic is very exciting, and I would maybe encourage people who, if you have some specific questions, and just welcome to put there, and then we will select some of the questions. Maybe sometime in the future we will able to discuss on those topics. No. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Just another comment relevant to the lamps, which we sort of addressed earlier, is this idea that our awareness is very much affected by our beliefs, and that's something which we appreciate in many small ways. And I think one of the real teachings that the Buddhist teachings bring to this, the dzogchen teachings bring to this, is that that's a huge effect. I mean, it affects everything, and we're slowly getting to that place in science that what we bring to our awareness of anything has a profound effect. But we haven't, really it applies to everything, because we've created everything out of our awareness of it in some way. And the only place in contemporary science where we've kind of run into that in a solid way is in some of the processes in what are called the foundations of quantum measurement, where the way you measure the system actually creates the reality. But I think one of the big lessons that will come from that is that really applies at some level to everything about our awareness.
Yeah. So, the question about bringing something in belief, it seems like what you were saying earlier, like for thousands of years, different cultures and traditions, there's a lot of ancient belief, values hidden in the culture, in the community. Some of those very ancient, not talking spiritual, philosophical, but even in a very communal sense of interaction with the people, how to elders, respecting to elders, there are many things like those kind of values are kind of getting lost in the modern society. In some sense, what you bring out there is what you're receiving back to you. So that sense of we were talking earlier, this sense of like in traditions, the elder people, there's a lot of respect. We call elders. That means basically even in the monastery, it's a very just system that in the monastery, if you go to the monastery, you became one day before monk, and then I came day later. So I naturally in the system, I naturally have to respect you for that. You came there earlier, you're elder, senior. So there is not like just in the West, sometimes you have a senior discount for the movies. But it's not about discount, respect that need to have, not just a discount of the movie.
That's a good point.
Yeah. So there's a lot of sense of these, I was saying earlier, like how you bring it or my niece, my brother, moment you if you value how you relate to somebody, you call somebody brother, or the doctor is a healer for the patient. So the doctor comes there not only who will just have this intellectual knowledge what medicine to give, but bringing some sense of space, some sense of warmth, some sense of hope. These are very, very important things. But these, like a medical system, they're lost kind of those kind of things. Like it's everything about very much like you have to. It's very, very difficult. How much doctors and nurses are suffering because the system. The real interconnection between the patients and the doctors. These relationships are so much lost, right? On the other hand, people are talking about, in terms of the people living well and living long, many factors. The number one most important factor is social interconnections. More than diet, more than exercise, more than many things. And but in a real situation in a life, in a modern society, we are losing those relationships. Right?
That's true. And again, one of the places where the power of contemporary, say, neuroscience might be helpful is now folks are investigating things like when you touch someone and you say something like brother, it activates some circuits in the brain that are related to positive emotion and kind of an inclination toward better long-term health and stuff like that, and pleasure. So it's activating things that can be then pointed to and say, see, this is a healthy thing happening in the nervous system, and then that makes it more real to be able to appreciate how powerful these behaviors are.
Yeah, I think like University of Virginia, they've done some research there. What I understood, if I understand correctly, that the holding hands, holding hand of the strangers, holding hand of somebody you are in a relationship, not married yet, and then somebody you're already married. So just the hold of hand, the signals in the brain, all three are totally different. So in terms of obviously in terms of the sense of security, a little bit have to be careful, doubtful. I'm married. I don't know which is, if you're married, how secure that is nowadays. But at least that's what you're bringing to it. You're thinking it's safe and secure. So they all are created in some sense of by yourself, right? But it's happening in the brain.
Yeah, and that gives it a kind of credibility and purchase in modern society to kind of connect it with something that's happening in the brain. I liked many years ago I heard the Dalai Lama say something like, we know for many centuries or millennia that certain kinds of traditions and behaviors they work really well, and it's great that modern science is now demonstrating exactly what's going on in the body when these things work and so forth, because now people will believe it. Now that you have a picture of brain processes that are changing in a certain way when we behave in a certain way that is known to be beneficial.
I think the question is here, when I remember when somebody was a neuroscience guy was actually explaining these things about the three different holding hands and the change, different circuits in brain changing. But I felt that very moment, the bigger question is, that's not, it seems very normal for me, okay, there's three different experiences. And if it's because of if you're truly three different experiences, something's going to happen in the brain differently, something's going to happen heart differently, blood pressure, everything, I can understand that. A matter of measuring them properly, but something different happening. But the bigger question is the perception of self. going back to what we were talking about awareness, it's not hand or tightness of hand. It's about who. When I'm holding a stranger's hand, the stranger is holding the hand of a stranger. When I'm holding a friend's hand, the friend is holding a hand of friend. When I'm holding my wife's hand, husband is holding a wife's hand. Is the identity who is holding, not about the hand. So that when the bigger question is who, and then it goes back to the same idea of who. It's no one. The really sense of idea of if no one is there, then they should not make any differences in the hand holdings. Maybe in the brain is totally relaxed. It's not trying to be excited or happy or be threat. Brain is totally is doing its job. There's no hand or there's no one who's holding anybody's hand.
Nice.
You know?
Yeah.
So some sense of, I think maybe it's always a question about, according to these teachings, when they're talking about the lamp, I think for me it's very much, it's not talking just the light and experiences, it's talking something beyond it. And all this interrelationship, interdependency and experiences, and what you're saying, what we bring out there, we bring out there, who's bringing out there? That's the bigger question, not what we bring out there. So sometimes we can always talk about what you bring out there, but not talk about who's bringing out there. So I think in most of these ancient traditions, what they're really talking is not so much what you're bringing out there, but who's bringing out there. And if the right person is there, then there will be more to bring out there. If the wrong person is there, the less to bring out there. That's really, of course, these are gets into when science is getting more complicated. Like who knows who?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, this is the next big thing, I think, to investigate exactly this kind of question.
So, anything you wanted to say to our group here?
Well, I guess I mean, for me, it's a privilege to be interacting with you on these topics because for many years I've been very excited about the encounter that these ancient traditions from Buddhism and Bon and with modern science, what the potentialities of that are. And my sense is that so far those potentialities have only been investigated to a very limited extent. And it's been a lot of trying to take practices and so forth and then try to understand something about what's going on in the brain, and so, which is all interesting. And what's more interesting and most interesting to me is to appreciate how this way of looking at the world and the self interacting with the world has from the beginning a deep appreciation of that enfolding or interconnectivity between mind and world, and that will be the most powerful direction that our dialogue in these conversations between science and the ancient traditions may go. And so it's very exciting to be, have a little piece of that.
So thank you so much for being here. And one nice thing about David, and we don't live very far away from each other, so it's I think he's very interested, and I'm very interested. There definitely will have more in the future, more conversation. And then, if there's any specific question people wanted to post there, please welcome. And I just wanted to, as a conclusion, I wanted to thank my TWR Facebook Live team, that they really, really work a lot, spend so much time volunteering everything, and I am very grateful to my team, and also thank you for being very patient with me, because sometimes we're trying to come up with the next week's topic and a week later's topic, and sometimes I'm not able to provide all the information in time, so this kind of gets delayed. But nevertheless, we are not giving it up. So, and I hope all of you just keep a little more close contact with my Facebook page. The information what we're planning to do right now is maybe next couple of months, do the pit instruction continuously, and also do a meditation on pain. So what we have done in the past, so regularly, a weekly based guided meditation, and talk about a little bit about it, practice together. And particularly, I know like there's so many people are also just dealing with the pain every day, physical pain, emotional pain, they're dealing with it. So we wanted to have this kind of platform to practice together, support each other to work on them and teach on that a little bit. And so partly it's working on, I mean, the whole idea of working on your own pain is it's also a practice of Dharma. So you're practicing Dharma and able to help your pain, both are working well together, no? So I think that's what we're planning to do. So but we don't have specific information. We'll soon post them. So thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Amazing stuff you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.